So, as a side note, we couldn't technically find anything connecting the Harvard experiments to MK Ultra, but we felt like we should include them because they're so similar in nature.
Well, he was clearly inspired by all the same things that, say, Donald Cameron here was inspired by too, because Henry Murray, that's the name of the dude who was in charge of the experiments over here. He had his own kind of analytical papers written about Nazi Germany, and he was in the same scene of psychology as all these cats too. So again, if you're trying to get in on the psychological career that's going on back in these days, you're gonna know about these things, and you're gonna be learning about these things.
Right.
But so in Harvard, Henry Murray was putting experiments going on, and one of them happened to be a young Ted Kaczynski here, who'd go on to be known as the infamous Unabomber. So
So the whole goal of this was demoralization and verbal abuse. From what I can gather, is they were prompted to do a ton of research and self-introspection, and ultimately were demoralized and berated over their views and beliefs. Not only that, were their conversations of these acts monitored and recorded, they were subsequently played back to further demoralize people.
Right.
So
basically, just like college students would sign up for this experiment.
They were told it was going to be a philosophy debate.
Right. Okay. So they actually didn't even know it was an experiment.
Yeah. No.
They were told
it was going to be a philosophy debate. Yeah.
And they're like, and they were probably like, oh, and we'll pay you or whatever, or at least like
I would
give
hope
you
so,
something,
at least.
right?
Yeah.
Like to incentivize these college students to come in, and it's basically they're just biting off of the whole struggle session thing, but it's like an individual one where they would basically have you write an essay and be like, what are your aspirations in life? What are your goals? What do you want to do? What are all your dreams and hopes? And they're like, that's cool. And they just read back all your shit that they wrote, or all your shit you wrote, and just roast the fuck out of you and be like, you're stupid, you're gay, just like go off down the fucking list of like they probably did.
Order?
I'm like not even joking. That probably is like part of what they said back.
I feel like it doesn't even have to be that critical though. It's like if you have, say, for example, in this scenario, a professor at the top who's overseeing this, and they go through the trouble of building trust and you maybe like them to some degree.
Yeah.
You're emotionally invested in what they think of you, and then it just starts to become small comments that just like snowball into things that become greater and greater.
Right.
It's like you may have just put like your 100% best work into something, and you're like absolutely like stoked to show the world, and then you just get the
well, this is
like
what
the little fucking like snide remarks in the comments that don't need to be there.
Well, here's the description of it too. Right here it says, I remember appearing one afternoon for a debate and being hooked up to electrodes and sat in a chair with bright lights and being told we were making a movie. I remember him attacking me, insulting me for my values, for opinions that expressed in my writing. I remember being shocked by the severity of the attack, and I remember feeling helpless to respond. What's the point of this? They've deceived me, telling me there was going to be a discussion when in fact it was just an attack. Yeah. So again, it's crazy. Because again, the physiological response is what was being monitored during these experiments too. It's like what is physically happening when you're being demoralized to this point.
Yeah,
right.
Which is fucked up.
It's awful.
And just to clear one thing up, because I know like a lot of people that watch, if there's like a bunch of Joe Rogan episodes about MK Ultra and stuff and acid and all this stuff, and it's become sort of just a talking point. It's like, yeah, that's what happened to the Unabombers. They just dosed them up with acid. It's like, that's not exactly confirmed. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they just gave college students a bunch of acid, but that's not necessarily like what's been reported, at least, as what went on with Ted Kaczynski. Like, it was more just
I actually couldn't find anything that said that happened in these experiments.
I think
some of them said that I think some of them said that there was some, but it wasn't explicitly like.
Yeah.
I think if that happened, it would have happened at Cornell University at the Human Ecology Fund. That seems to be where most of this like college-based stuff comes from, and then a lot of the Harvard experiments are just taken out of context. They're not actually like related, but a lot of people associate the two to the point where the Harvard experiments are even the like main representing point of MK Ultra to some
Right.
people, but they're technically not related.
Yeah,
so.
but it's all kind of under the same umbrella. It's definitely worth
yes.
worth talking
It's a
about.
this whole thing is a scientific movement. You
Right.
feel me?
Yes, it's
That's
yes.
they were all getting in on it. They're all trying to outdo each other. You know, everybody's in a rush to make the new breaking discovery and publish papers and go down in history. So they're
Right.
excited. You know, they're like, oh man, I'm getting all this government funding. Yeah. Do we have a thing on Henry Murray? Do we have a card? I
thought we did,
I
yep.
thought we did.
Go back to the page.
Did we have a Henry Murray page? I don't think
Maybe
so.
not.
I thought we did. Cause I thought.
Shoot.
Okay. Well, so yeah. So, anyways, if we're gonna keep moving on there to
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Subproject 43, back to our buddy Jolly West. This is where he really got kicked off with it, with the money, you know, the U.S. grants, you know. We kind of went over this
Right.
already when we introduced him, but what he did do that was pretty unique. I don't think anybody else really did this. He gave an elephant LSD.
Yeah.
And it died.
Spoiler alert. R.I.P. Tusco.
Yeah.
Tusco's last trip.
May
So
you live in peace. Rest in peace.
that
Bro,
just
rest in
seems
power,
like
Rest in
King,
power,
bro.
King, yeah.
It was
Dude,
at
it's
the
like-
zoo too. It was at the zoo. The Oklahoma Zoo gave him permission to do the experiment.
Yep.
And a lot of people, they actually recreated the experiment years later, like in the 90s, I think, or the 80s or the 90s, and they were like, the elephants are fine. Jolly West was a psycho and gave it acid. Then when it wasn't feeling too hot, it gave it stimmies to try to wake it up. And then when it was freaking out too much off the stimmies, they gave it like downers so that it would calm down. And then the elephant died. And it's like, damn, how many drugs are you to kill an elephant? You know,
I'm sorry, it's not funny.
this is kind of
It's-
this is kind of like just the experiment that just an insane child would run, be like, "Daddy, I want an elephant." It's like, "How much is your elephant?" He's like, $20,000, and he's like, "Perfect, I have $20,800 from the CIA."
Well, this is a lot like Topsy too, which I'm like, why the fuck do you guys hate elephants so much back in the day?
Wait,
like,
what's who's Topsy?
you don't know about Topsy the elephant, bro? Thomas
No.
Edison killed an elephant too.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Practicing what
DC, bro. DC current, bro. Yeah. Yeah, they put him on a board and zapped his ass, bro.
forgot
Like,
about
see,
that.
look, it works fine.
Dude,
Bro,
and then
in
P.T.
the name of
Barnum
science.
too. Freaking P.T.
So
Barnum was in
powerful,
the
it can
name of
kill an
partying, though. You feel me?
Yeah.
At least there's that.
I can respect that.
Man,
Yeah.
Tusco stood so Harambe could. Tusco crawled so Harambe could run.
There we go.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
It's tough, bro. Yeah, man.
Damn. R.I.P. Tusco, pouring
yeah.
out for Tusco.
R.I.P. Yeah.
So that's kind of all we wanted to touch on with Oklahoma.
So right, so we're
R.I.P.
okay. So we're leaving the Unabomber behind because he was not the Unabomber at this point.
For
Spoiler.
not yet.
For
No,
now.
yeah.
For now.
For a long time, he was just chilling.
Yeah.
So then in the meantime, obviously, JFK assassinated,
By Lee Harvey Oswald.
allegedly, and then
Supposedly, right.
before Lee Harvey Oswald could make any kind of a confession or testimony or whatever, he got iced by Jack Ruby.
Yeah, I think he was in transit between prisons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so Jack Ruby too was involved with organized crime and stuff too. He wasn't really like in the scene of this stuff per se, but he was more of like an organized crime mob kind of guy.
Right.
And
He was like a club owner at the time as well, so that kind of helped facilitate the local
Right.
crime and gang activity.
Jack
Yeah.
Ruby's not his real name, is it?
I can't remember.
I feel like that sounds like a nickname. It sounds like a fucking Fallout New Vegas character,
I feel like
you know?
well, it's probably because Jack Ruby has been fictionalized in a bunch of different things.
Right.
Yeah. He was in what's the fucking one by Gerard Way, the
the
Umbrella
Academy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Umbrella Academy is pretty cool.
That was a
Oh.
pretty recent one where he was in.
Who was he in the Umbrella Academy?
He was Jack Ruby. He was just a bartender. So it was I think it was
Oh, okay.
season 2.
Right.
Season two where they went back in
Yeah,
time.
they go back in time.
So that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
That
Didn't
season
know
was
that.
fire, bro. Honestly,
fire.
that shit
On
was
what?
tight. Yeah. Umbrella Academy.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for the new season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we do.
But
So Sunday, November 24th, detectives were escorting Lee Harvey Oswald through the basement of the Dallas police headquarters toward an armored car. So he was going from a city jail to the county jail, and then so Jack Ruby pops out of nowhere out of the side of the crowd, shoots him once in the abdomen, And then so after that, Jack Ruby was held in isolation cell in police custody. Jolly West was appointed as Ruby's psychiatrist and pronounced him psychotic and delusional and suggested further interrogation under the influence of sodium thiopental and hypnosis.
So the thing is, though, is that he never displayed any signs of mental illness before in his life. He's a very competent guy, real 60 crime individual, you know, organized crime, mob type of guy. It's almost like on Batman Forever, or no, Batman Forever. Batman Begins, where you know, Falcone gets arrested and then Scarecrow goes in and gives him the Scarecrow gas, and then he's like, oh man, the guy's just lost it, you know? He's
right.
It's like, really, he never had a problem a day in his life. He's like, I don't know, man, he just snapped.
So
That's interesting. Falcone hella is a Jack Ruby type.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's what Scarecrow's whole kind of character is about, you know? It's a psychologist using toxins to study fear. You know, so yeah, Scarecrow.
It's crazy how many different cultural references there are that kind of tie into this stuff. It's almost like, it's so crazy that when you hear all this stuff that's going on in real life, you're like, that kind of sounds like Batman, or that kind of sounds like a comic book or a movie or whatever. And it's like,
it's because ain't nothing new under the sun, son. All
so
right.
so Jolly West too is he formed the San Francisco Crash Pads to study the hippie movement as well. Oh, I have to mention, can we go back super quick too, since we're getting into San Francisco and hippie stuff too? Just go back to the Harvard stuff real quick, because Henry Murray, we didn't put a thing, but Henry Murray, at the same time he was doing these experiments, he was mentoring Timothy Leary, who was studying psychedelics, psilocybin, LSD, and Timothy Leary became one of the biggest figures in putting psychedelics out to the public during the hippie movement and stuff. So I thought that was a
mentor.
Yeah, he was mentoring Timothy Leary at the same time he was doing these
crazy.
experiments.
So is Timothy Leary kind of an asset then?
I don't know. Maybe
Asset
maybe.
or protege. I'm not sure if the difference is that consequential, but it's very, very interesting.
I think the thing is, Timothy Leary's message was like, this stuff's great. We gotta like get normal people access to it so that everybody can have their mind expanded. I think he was a little more of had a positive kind of intention, but I don't think that means he's any less of an asset or involved,
rather than experimenting on people.
Kind of a happy accident in a way, where it's like he's pushing it to make it easier to experiment, because it's just open. People are just open to taking it.
And thereby making it harder for people to get surreptitiously dosed without their knowledge. You know what I